name is Eric.
GEARIN.
And I started the BLUEMONT Connection, specialize in gravel and cyclocross racing. I'll talk a little bit about kind of, there's a mechanical component to it, something that's very, very personal to me, having been a bike mechanic most of my life. Just making sure your bike's safe, before the ride, just a great way to kind of get everyone on the same page. Is, hey, everybody's tires ready to go. I do a quick check on my bike before I go ride that I call, probably not the best name for it, but the oath test. I'll just get in front. Something as simple as having a cockpit not be tight can really create a lot of problems for you down the road. So just standing in front of the bike, actually grab my wheels and give a little hammer. Sometimes if the quick release isn't tight or if something's loose, you'll hear some noises. It'll prompt kind of further questions. I'll then pinch the front wheel between my knees. Grab my shifters if we're doing road bikes, because these can pivot on this part of the handlebar. Try to give those a push, try to hulk it the whole way through, but we don't want those to be moving when you're riding. Then taking the handlebars and pushing them to try to rotate them along the axis of the stem. Maybe we've all had that happen at one point. It can be really scary. Good morning. So making sure that stem is nice and tight, I'll actually take it and give it a little push. Sometimes I'll give that like a firm push. You'll be surprised how these become loose over time. And then the final one is actually taking the handlebar, not here, but further back, and trying to rotate the stem on this axis. This is loose and you're going down a hill and there's a bus behind you, that is not going to go very well. Morning, guys.
Morning. Have a good ride, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
Work my way back to the saddle. This is one that can, maybe not be as catastrophic, but it can certainly lead to injury. Your saddle's loose. I'll take 2 tests. I'll grab the front and the back. See if there's any creaking, any movement there. And then the second one, I'll grab the front and back and give it a rotation. Again, we ride our bikes a lot, and as we do that, things vibrate, things come loose. So even if it was good a week ago, a month ago, the variables change. So it worked out very good.
Riders being aware of body language. When people are riding beyond their comfort level, they tend to waver in the saddle, their shoulders bob, their hips rock. They look fatigued because they are more mentally fatigued, physically fatigued. But bodies report stuff that you wouldn't normally verbalize, and then you just strike up a conversation. It doesn't have to be anything more than, hey, how you doing? How you feeling? Is this baby, how's this pace for you? Make it so that if it really gets to the point where they can't get home, that you call them transportation to come home and you stay with them until that transportation arrives. And I can't stress that last bit enough.
Bailout options.
Yeah, there got to be bailout options. And I mean, we have called Ubers and Lyfts and wives and husbands and brothers.
Taking care of each other and looking out for each other.
Yes.
In the crew. Cannot stress it enough, especially with the new groups. I've done a lot of rides, and you guys know me from GEARIN. A lot of the new cycle groups have come through, and I've just heard horror stories about people being left out there on night rides, leaving people out there, and sometimes you don't have to be a library. Sometimes you just have to look around and go, somebody's dropping off the back. Yeah, I'm just gonna. I want to ride with the group, but I can't.
Right.
Somebody's left back there, and nobody knows.
Right.
You got to do it.
Yeah,
So it's not always you that has to slip back, making friends that you're seeing on a regular basis. So you might suggest to somebody else, or they could say, you know what, this is my time to sacrifice my need for speed. If everybody's got to have, if everyone's jonesing to get the most out of every ride, then you're not really going to cultivate that. Because sometimes you're like I said, I might want to be up there, but I got to slide back. And group rides really, ideally, should be moving as fast as the slowest person. And if you're not doing that, you got to think about separating people so that they're comfortable within the group, sense of how to approach the beginning of a climb and how to start ramping up my pedal speed as I change gears. All of these little things like shifting and all that stuff. As you pick it up, sharing that with the people that you're riding with, so they get a sense, and not being shy about providing instruction. Saying, okay, for example, if you're all climbing up a hill, there's a guy who's shifting gears. He or she may have their bike sort of slide back because they're interrupting their cadence, and they're not shifting at a level where they're going to seamlessly just kind of keep their momentum going as they like climb out of the saddle or sit in the saddle. And if you're in a tight pace line, that's half a second or second lag means that there's a wheel overlapping, and then it's jamming up the person behind and then person behind, and all these little things contribute to make a ride less smooth. So let's do a lap and just talk about our pace lining and how we approach pace lining from right to left or left. Lighten up your force on the pedal and slowing your speed without touching the brake levers necessarily, because every time you touch that brake lever, it's like sending sort of tremors down the back of the pack, because it's just emphasized behind you, and it's always easier to adjust to somebody's slowdown speed when they start soft pedaling, when they just lighten the force on their wheels, and then that also for folks who are maybe not on the brakes, it is definitely a time to start, getting on your brakes and then being able to feather your brakes too. Sometimes you want to brake, but knowing the difference between that force and feeling like, okay, I can just gently just kind of, as soon as you hit to the front, or actually as you are riding next to the person who just crossed wheels, looking at what your speed is, so you know what their speed is. And it is natural as you come to the front, as a person clears the wheel and lets you have the front, it's natural for that surge to kind of occur, because suddenly you feeling like, oh, I just came out of the slipstream and I could push this, because suddenly, like, you've been having the benefit of the draft for all this time, and the energy that all of a sudden you got 30% more energy to put forth. So that's how that surge happens. It's just remember,
clear the wheel and get off.
Yeah.
Clear the person's wheel and move over. Yeah. That's all you do.
Yeah.
Don't go off the front. Clear the wheel, move over.
Yeah.
And when you get on,
keep this amoeba, this thing moving together.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, when you're on the side that's falling back, you're actually using less energy. You're supposed to drift back and actually be a little slower when you're on the falling back side.
Gotcha.
That's key.
And otherwise it becomes an ever accelerating
Right.